Awesome. Welcome. Let me get Instagram and I will come back to the dear friends over here on StreamYard.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah, hold on. My Instagram is not wanting to play nice. Hold on. Let's try this again. Technical issues. Well, hello. Welcome everyone. Hi, Becky.
Welcome. Happy Monday. I don't know why we decided to do a podcast on a Monday, but hey, that's
I
the day that
know.
worked for this podcast. But anyway,
Whose
I'm so
bright
excited
idea
for
was that?
tonight.
I am very excited. So hopefully as people get joined on. And hello, Instagram. We are really excited. So, we have some things in the works and we have a special guest. But first, I want to say hello to YouTube, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Rumble. iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So, welcome, welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here.
Yes, absolutely. And welcome to everyone, and also welcome to the special guests. So many of you know that I'm kicking off the next 90 days with an M.F.F challenge. And what better way to speak about meat and ferments than Dr. Sean O'Mara? Welcome to all of the platforms. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Becky. Thank you for your invitation to come and speak to your followers.
Absolutely. So many haven't well, let me end up and rephrase that. Many may not end up and know who you are. I've known you through various colleagues of mine that have interviewed you. I've also followed you over on Instagram. Um, heard your story, but kind of tell our followers a little bit about yourself and how you went from this, doctor on the left to the person you are today.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been quite a journey and a great journey. So if you're just getting started and you end up following a similar journey towards embracing, improving, and hopefully optimizing health, you're in for such a wonderful life ahead of you. And as a physician researcher in this particular space, I don't see any end in sight. So it doesn't look like it's going to plateau out. You should continue to improve. I've been improving for 15 years now. I started out my career in law enforcement and then went into criminal prosecution after doing police work and undercover drug work. I became a prosecutor. And from being an attorney, prosecuting attorney, I went to back to college and worked part time as a night watchman. Believe it or not, as an attorney, I worked as a night watchman to be able to afford to go back to school for another 2 years to be able to get enough sciences to apply to medical school. And then applied to medical school, got a scholarship through the Army, and finished medical school, and then went into my residency training for 4 years as an emergency medicine physician. And just recently retired from the Army only about 2 months ago as a full bird colonel. So it's been quite a journey. I specialized in emergency medicine, and during that time, I also took care of the presidents and vice presidents and Secretary of State Colin Powell, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. So I got lots of experience taking care of high-end people and did concierge medicine. But the most exciting thing I do today is I do health and performance optimization after, as Becky mentioned, becoming an unhealthy physician myself there on the left. I gained weight, and more importantly, I gained disease. So I had numerous medical problems, large prostate that kept me peeing all night long, 4 or 5 times a night. And it's a vicious cycle because it interferes with your sleep. So it's not only a great inconvenience to have to keep waking up so much, but it detracts from your health and makes your prostate even less healthy. So it just kept getting worse. And I also had erectile dysfunction, eczema, severe gastroesophageal reflux disease, terrible heartburn, multiple medications, precancerous lesions in my throat. I had high blood pressure. I had heart disease, clogged arteries, restless leg syndrome, where I kicked my legs all night long. I had obstructive sleep apnea, so I'd snore, all night long, keep my poor wife up between kicking my legs and snoring and gasping for air. And I just had chronic back pain and just arthritic joints, and just was falling apart at the age of 48. And then, I met a patient who told me to cut out carbohydrates and I'd lose weight. And told me about a diet at that time was called the paleo diet. And he also recommended I eat fermented foods and to sprint outdoors. So I never heard of such a combination, but God knows probably only why I decided to do those four things. So I sprinted, I ate meat, I ate fermented foods, and I started going outside and followed the paleo diet. And I thought I was just going to lose weight, but after about a year, I noticed not only did my weight improve, but all my medical conditions had resolved. Here I am, instead dribbling when I would urinate, I had a stream again like I was in my 20s. And you'd think I'd be super happy, but I was very mad because I felt like all my training in medicine didn't have one iota of a contribution to my improvement. And I didn't have a good explanation because I didn't have any training that would suggest those things that I did would reverse it. So the truth is they reversed it because it was a combination that I did things. And, if you think about your own experience of gaining weight, almost nobody becomes overweight, heavy set, and then starts eating the paleo diet, starts adding in ferments at the same time, starts sprinting and goes outdoors. I mean, that's just a unique combination. But point of fact, when I started researching uh, the reversal of chronic disease and looking for biomarkers, it turns out that particular combination is extremely effective at eradicating a disease process inside of your body that comes from visceral fat. So it's this deadly fat inside your abdomen. So the long and short of it was, I'm a physician who specializes in humility aside, I'm the best at it in the world in visceral fat and eliminating it. So today I have a medical practice. I have about 5 doctors right now, and maybe six, I guess. And we reverse visceral fat in people, and also this dangerous fat that's related to visceral fat called myosteatosis, better known as maybe muscle marbling. So, like a steak might get marbleized, human muscle gets marbleized. Only nobody knows about it and talks about it. And then there's fat around your heart, dangerous inflammatory fat surrounding your heart. So I look for opportunities to come and speak to communities and people about what I do and our practice and how important these bodies of fat are. And I'll just make a prediction: 2024, November 2024, eventually we won't be talking about cholesterol. We'll be talking about these deadly areas of fat. But for the time being, there's good money to be made in having people follow something that doesn't get them better, because you just keep getting worse and you keep end up buying more medication. So perhaps in the near future, with RFK's push to make America healthy again, and him becoming the Secretary of Health, we actually might find out what in the world is going on in medical schools that they're keeping physicians from learning about this dangerous fat. And so I'm happy to chat with your group tonight and maybe cover those a little bit. So I'm happy to do that, Becky.
Well, and we appreciate you coming on. And I've seen several of your slides. And the biggest thing, I guess, in my opinion about it, because, I've seen your presentations in regards to the slides. And like I said, I've spoken with several of my colleagues that have talked to you previously. And it's not necessarily just the visceral fat of, that we can end up and pinch, right? Many people think that's what we're discussing, but it's not just that you're able to pinch. You've seen slides of very lean people too, 6-pack abs, that still end up and have a dangerous amount of fat around the abdomen.
Indeed. So maybe we should show those images so your audience knows about it. So
Perfect. Let
let's
me
pull
make
up.
you bigger and I'll pull us off.
Okay. Okay, maybe I look a little bit bigger now. So this is an example of somebody who's pretty lean. This is the doctor who taught me about visceral fat, Dr. Zhang. And this is MRI scan, and just by way of anatomy, he's laying down on a stretcher when you go through an MRI scan. And I can blow that up a little bit better and maybe move it to the center. And when you lay on your back, these are your back muscles. This is your belly button. And on an MRI scan, MRI fat shows up as white. So everything in the middle here is all fat, and it's visceral fat. It's a deadly visceral fat that some of you probably have heard about that hides in your abdomen. It's also called invisible obesity because, like Becky was saying, you can't see it. It's contained within you, like a ticking time bomb. And then muscles are dark. So I like to point this scan out and oftentimes start because one, I like to credit where I learned about visceral fat from this researcher. He's an MD, PhD, way smarter than I am, and a really brilliant guy and a great human being. But he has a 31-inch waist, and I have a 32-inch waist. So he's leaner than I am. So to Becky's point, you cannot tell by how big or how small you are. It is just a dangerous fat that's concealed within you. And short of getting an MRI or CT scan of your abdomen, you're just not going to be able to visualize and see that body of dangerous fat. So we'll show a little bit higher resolution of this so you can see a little bit better. Now, 15 years later, this is an MRI scan with better detail. So you can see it better. And all that is white. This on the inside is visceral fat. And dark are either muscles or organs. So these are the back muscles. And they have an interesting name called erectae spinae. And when you see these white streaks starting to invade in there, the fat that starts to deposit in your muscles actually starts replacing your muscle. And so once your back gets filled, muscles get filled with fat so much, you get this crooked bent over shape to your back. And then you're one of these, 70, 80-year-old ladies walking around like this. Hello, what's your name? I haven't seen you before. And you get that kind of a posture. And the only reason you get it is because of this fat that starts filling your back muscles, but it also fills your leg muscles. And that's why you end up using a cane. And then slowly you migrate into a walker, and eventually your muscles are so filled with fat you can't even use the walker anymore, and they sit your fanny down in a wheelchair and somebody's pushing you around. But you can stop that plan, that projection tonight, if you track these dangerous fats. So the first one is this visceral fat. The second one is the fat in the muscle. And the third one is that you can see there's a black line going around here. Do you see that black line? And it goes around here. It's actually separating this outer fat compartment, which is better known as your subcutaneous fat, into two compartments. And most people don't know that there's two compartments of subcutaneous fat. And that is a big problem because one of those compartments is super bad and you don't want it. And that one is called deep subcutaneous fat. Deep for, you could say deep for deadly, okay? That stuff will kill you. Highly inflammatory, causes disease throughout your body the same way visceral fat does and muscle fat does. But the other compartment next to it, adjacent to it, from the skin to the black line, scarpous membrane, is superficial subcutaneous fat. And that's the kind of fat that you can pinch that Becky was talking about. And that's actually good. So a lot of people are mistaken thinking that you want to have a six-pack and see it. The truth is you do want one, only you don't want to see it except on an MRI. So you want to be able to see it underneath your fat, but you want it concealed by a layer of fat, so it's not evident. So I'll move it from G rating educational to PG. Okay, I'm going to show my abdomen. I've got a decent shape, but I don't have patent six-pack abs because I keep a thin layer of sub-Q fat, purposely trying to conceal it. Because when you get that sub-Q fat, I'm going to get a little bit closer, it makes your face look healthier because you are healthier. Ladies and gentlemen, you want that layer of fat on your body so you can be more healthy. And so a lot of people think that they want to get rid of it. And so they may make a mistake of getting liposuction. And liposuction, they go down, they suck out all that fat. Well, a lot of people that have done that, and it's mostly women, end up with declining health because in that fat is a molecule. Grab your pen and a piece of paper, write it down. It's called adiponectin, and it's spelled just like it sounds, adiponectin, adiponectin. And so adiponectin, I want you to Google it. Don't take Dr. Sean's word on it. I want you to read about benefits, adiponectin, or jump in ChatGPT and say, hey, what are the health benefits to having adiponectin? And it will rattle off all these beautiful studies and what the benefits are. And you want to be aware of it because it's sort of like a bulletproof vest that you put on you to protect you from disease, like heart attacks, strokes, cancer, neurodegenerative conditions like MS and Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's and dementia. So you want adiponectin. It's a wonderful A word. It's a wonderful substance that your body secretes, and it gets secreted chiefly in all areas of the body from your superficial subcutaneous fat. The other thing, if that doesn't sound attractive enough to you, like you don't want to have disease, adiponectin will make your face pretty, way better than cosmetics. Okay. So you want a layer of fat. And some of the earliest examples of this is during the Renaissance period, where their masters would paint women and sculpt them. And they oftentimes were cherubs, a little heavy, because they had an abundance of superficial subcutaneous fat. They didn't have a lot of the processed foods that cause visceral fat. And so they had these beautiful, angelic, porcelain like gorgeous faces that the masters would paint and sculpt. And you want that because, ladies, and speaking to the women tonight at this particular point, as you age, you're going to lose your superficial subcutaneous fat as you get more visceral fat inside, and you're going to be a skull with skin on it. And you'll be like, hi, can I get some cookies? And you're going to look awful because you're accumulating this inflammatory fat. You're losing your beautiful superficial subcutaneous fat. And so you lose the tissue you need and you're gaining the tissue you don't want to have. So I'm a big believer in educating people about this good beneficial fat. And the way you find out about it is get an MRI scan. So time to hit your bank. Don't leave the money for the kids. Get an MRI scan. Because if you don't do this now, you're going to you're going to spend way more money. The kids on you will spend way more money taking care of mom and dad in a dementia care facility. And they'll have telephone conversations or video conversations. I don't think they're changing dad's diaper. He smells when I go up there. If you want that to go on, then drive on in the status quo. But this is what happens to people. They fall apart. They get inflammatory fat inside of them. They get on incontinence. They end up with diapers. So real short, you want to get rid of the white stuff in the middle. You want to get rid of the white stuff in your muscles, which lead to your muscles in your colon and your rectum and your anus falling apart. And you end up with incontinence of urine and stool, and you need diapers. And you want to keep a healthy layer of this superficial subcutaneous fat so that you can keep your protection against disease. So Amy showed my picture.
And that's also, while you're looking for that other picture, that's also where we end up when we see hormones that are wrecking. Is people get so low on, fat because they stage prep, right? They end up and they think that having these models or this social media, persona of what we should end up and look like. And so they're cutting their body fat percentage so low that they're wrecking the hormones.
Yeah, no, exactly. Excellent point. So social media, marketing on television, it's all geared towards the wrong stuff. They're telling you that you want to have no subcutaneous fat, and you want that. I mean, and it's confusing because I mean, I'll take issue with my learned colleague and physician colleague, Dr. Paul Saladino. He is running around promoting a build with a six-pack abs. You know how you get you know how what helps to lose subcutaneous fat? Sugar, fruit, and sugar. It burns up the good fat, and it builds bad fat. Now Paul is starting to get a bulge in his abdomen since he went off carnivore and he's doing fruit and honey now, and that's what we see. You lose that superficial subcutaneous fat. But the way you get it back is fasting and going on the carnivore diet, eating ferments. So fasting and feasting allows you to get that. But maybe before I show my face, I'll show you an MRI scan of a couple guys that will be helpful to understand. So this is kind of new, so you probably haven't seen this before. But here are two males, and see all the white stuff inside? They're filled with visceral fat, lots of it, and that visceral fat just accumulates inside until you're aware of it and do something about it. Now, I'm going to show you their faces. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
They're kids.
Wow.
If these kids have
and
this
that
much,
just goes to show what kids are eating these days.
yeah. And if kids got this, think about what you could have. But here's the interesting thing. Watch what happens to these kids. They come to our practice. We scan them. They're 7 and 9 years old. And we sit them down and show them these scans with their parents' scans. And the entire family works to get rid of visceral fat. Now, these look like average boys, right? They don't look particularly shocking. Watch what happens to these average kids when they get rid of visceral fat.
Wow.
Now, you should be asking, what would happen to me?
Yep.
What would happen to me? The world needs to see this. This photograph went to President Trump. Does that sound kind of interesting, like what's going on in the health now with RFK and this Maha thing? This is deadly serious. Our country has been filled with disease, and I'd like to see some people go to jail that have contributed to concealing what really gets people healthy. And you need to know about this visceral fat because it's killing you and it's diseasing you and it's diseasing your children. Quick science, look at their lips, how small they are and pale. Look how enlarged they become. Both of them, they're brothers. They both get this when they get rid of visceral fat, and they turn real red. What's the number one color lipstick sold in the world?
Red.
Red.
That's
Because it
natural
shows
pigment of
perfusion of the lips and saturation of the hemoglobin molecule with oxygen. It tells us, fellas, this girl is healthy, and our brains are saying attractive. Go merge genetic material. That's what basically in a fundamental is going on. But if you're not, if you're a little bit older and you're not in the dating game or whatever, it tells people to pay more attention to you. I'm relevant and I'm a good influencer. You want to have a very healthy appearance. So I work with people to not only optimize their health, but to optimize their appearance and optimize their performance. So these scans with these kids are really interesting because this family all came together to do this. I used to work with individuals one-on-one, but now as much as possible, I try to get husbands and wives, siblings, entire families, business partners to come to do it. I mean, if you do it with somebody else, you just get better results. The more people, more significant people you do this with, the science when we data mine shows the better results. So it really is that important. And then I'll go back to let's just look at this one photograph. The father mailed me this photograph. He goes, check out the physical transformation. That kid is 9 years old. Look at his build. He's playing with a toy. Look how muscular that kid is getting.
Yeah.
And so this is what I'm going to say was status quo of our ancestors about 20,000 years ago. We were just ferociously strong and healthy, vigorous, vital.
And speaking of our ancestors, several years ago, kind of goes back to what I'm personally doing over the next 90 days with this challenge in regards of, you've kind of coined it the living carnivore diet, right? Making sure we're getting protein in there, make sure we're getting that structure in there, but also make sure we're getting those microbes in there. And so for anyone that is joining, via the challenge, or whether they're joining to watch YouTube over here, kind of explain what that means, right? What does it mean to do more of a living carnivore, and why is it important to go on that route of making sure that we put the meat and the ferments together? And I have a couple slides in regards of meat, because when we talk about, if I can get added to the stage here, when we talk about meats, we're not necessarily talking about processed meats, right? We're talking about ruminant meats, we're talking about seafood, that whole realm. But explain a little bit about the ancestral or the living carnivore diet.
Yeah. So I coined the living carnivore diet just like you said. It's because it's got these living microbes in it. So why the living microbes? Well, anecdotally, it's what we have found out improves people, helps them to lose the most amount of visceral fat and disease in their body when they added in fermented foods into their diet. So it has less to do with the nutrients in these fermented foods and has way more to do with the microbes in them, because these fermented foods are alive. They're probiotic, they're fermented, they're raw, they're cultured. And so what they have are bacteria and yeast and fungi and other organisms inside that change the form of food and actually improve the form of the food. But the real magic is in those microbes. So, well, let's talk about ancestrally. When did our ancestors start eating fermented foods? Well, probably thousands of years ago. But if you listen to anthropologists, humans have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, probably way longer than fermented foods. So why do we have to eat fermented foods? Here's my best defense of it. Because today when we eat food, it's sterile. It's sterile. If you go on the carnivore diet and you're so proud and you're getting all these good results, it's like the biggest fake phony diet compared to our ancestors, relative to what the meat they ate. And I believe they just ate meat because that meat is not like the supermarket meat we eat today that's sterile and saran wraps and freezer wrap paper, or wherever you get your butcher meat from. We'd go out and kill a woolly mammoth, and that woolly mammoth had a hide, or the elk or bison or whatever we hunted had a hide, and those microbes got all over the meat. They didn't have a sterile butcher shop. They didn't have packaging. Those microbes from the animal went on the meat, and they were also present in the hide of the animal. And the other thing is, we would drink water from a stream, creeks, rivers, and lakes, and they're filled with beautiful microbes. Today we can't drink those water, and we drink chlorinated water. It's all sterile and processed, and reverse osmosis, and God knows what all the craziness we do to water.
Fluoride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just chemical processed water. So I call this a living carnivore diet. If you absolutely don't want to eat anything but meat, drive on, but drink water rich with microbes. What do I mean by that? Well, you can get natural spring water right out of the ground, not from some bottle that's in San Pellegrino or Topo Chico, where all the general counsel and lawyers have spent all this money and charged the company and said, you've got to pasteurize this water, because if anybody's got diabetes or immune disorder and they get even a cold, they can sue you because you didn't sterilize the water. And so all that water is germ free, microbe free. But not if you go and collect your own bottled water, or you use a well water, like if you go to a well. So find a neighbor who's got a well and get water from them. Google natural spring near me and go get water from the ground at a natural spring that's published, and it's usually tested regularly. And like I do, I go and get about 20 gallons of water at my natural spring near me, and we drink it all day long. We drink it with dinner, so we're drinking living microbes. And the other thing you could do is, this will actually shock you, is drink ocean water.
Yep.
Drink ocean water. There are tons of microbes in the ocean. And so one good example, who drinks ocean water? They don't know that they do, but they do. If you talk to them about it, they'd agree. Question: have you ever seen an overweight surfer?
No.
No.
No, because they're drinking it. You know why? Because it's the laziest sport in the world. People say Paul Saladino looks good when he's eating fruit and honey because he's exercising 3 hours surfing. Listen, I'm a surfer. It's the big out. It's the laziest sport in the world. You're sitting on your surfboard, laying on your surfboard for hours to maybe do 5 or 10 rides that last for a few seconds, that you're just balancing and you fall down. It's like not even really a sport except for the skill. I mean, the professionals really balance good, but that's really what they're good at. But when it's when you wipe out, you're tossed and turned in that ocean, and you swallow water. You always come out coughing and gagging, swallowing all that water. And let me just cut to the chase, ladies. Surfers are hot. They're attractive because they're healthy.
Yeah.
You don't see too many really loser looking surfers. And so those microbes, I'm telling you, get excited about them. You want to add in those fermented foods. People that regularly consume fermented foods just look better because they're healthier. And so ocean water, natural spring water near me is a great addition to your diet. Glacier water and well water. And sadly, in the country of Canada now, they're making laws that you got to dump in chlorine to wells. Question: anybody know anybody that had a well that ever got sick from it, that the government should be telling people to dump in chlorine? No.
I've had a well for years. I mean, 20 plus years of well water, and my
It's
well's,
bullcrap.
250 foot in the ground, and I've never been sick from drinking my water.
Well, now the government of Canada is going to do it. Now watch. If there's a change in administration, and a different sheriff comes in town, somebody of a different persuasion, you're going to see that happen in the United States. Now, why is that happening? Well, guess what? If you run big pharma and you're like one of the most profitable companies in the world, what do you have to pay attention to? You're going to hire a bunch of people that are smart and research. Tell me people that don't use a lot of drugs. Who's not using drugs? You know who's not using drugs? People have wells. Isn't that interesting? So they're going after the people that own wells in Canada because they're more healthy, because they're getting those microbes in them. So if you're in America and you're just eating meat, but you don't have access to well water, you're not getting microbes in, You're not like your ancestors. You're eating like sterile meat, and you need those microbes to go into your gut and upregulate, optimize your digestion and get rid of disease. Your microbiome determines your immunity and the level of health and the level of disease that you have. So you absolutely want to be incorporating in living water and fermented foods, living foods, so that you can eat the living carnivore diet. So I love what Becky's come up with. Eating meat and ferments. It's the way to go. It is the singularly the healthiest way to eat to optimize your health and your body.
Well, and
So
I think
I
you,
have a
you
oh, sorry,
I was
Becky.
just gonna say real quick, and then I'll let you jump in there. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? The aspect of having support, which is why I created it into a challenge, because it has that community factor. It has that group. Other people are doing it. We support each other. You can, bounce off meal plans off of each other, or what they're eating off of each other. But also the fact of stacking these practices, and so that's one of the big things that we are all about in the BNC is stacking, grounding. That's another way, getting your natural body in connection with the earth, the circadian rhythm, all of these natural practices, but also this way of eating. And that is where we align. And the other reason why I kicked this off.
Yeah.
And then
Stacking
go ahead, Sherry.
stacking is absolutely
Yep.
key,
Yep.
because we learned to stack when we were toddlers from our parents, because we combined the lifestyle of our parents and our grandparents into our own lives. And when clients come to work with us, we actually give them 48 things to do. I just have like half a dozen I put out on the internet, but I hold back for the best ones to get the best results in the world, with the other 42 for people that come work one-on-one with us or who work with us online. We give those results now to people that do our ultimate start and do an MRI online. So stacking is key. And you're not going to do it, particularly if I give you 48 strategies without an MRI. If you don't see how diseased you are inside, you're not going to do those things. You'll be less inclined to do it. So when we get an MRI for a client, they see all that disease inside. Then they don't want 48 strategies. They want 100. I mean, they want as many as they can to get rid of that disease. So it's really imperative to get that MRI. You really need to get it.
So any tips on how to someone starting out on how to even like eating fermented foods? Any ideas to just kind of get someone going?
Yeah, start small and work up is the way to do it. And you want to get what's called a good infection. Most people listening to us right now have a bad infection. They have pathogenic microbes, even obesogenic microbes inside of them. So if you're somebody who's listening tonight and you got a lot of cravings, you have species of microbes inside of you that are dependent upon carbohydrates. And listen, you're craving isn't for steak. You want those damn muffins. You want a damn donut. I gotta have my bagel with cream cheese in the morning. I need it. These are cravings that come from microbes inside of you. They have to have it, but trust me, you don't. You'll do perfectly fine without carbohydrates. But these microbes are inside of you, they're infecting you. And so to overcome them, you've got to get a good infection with fermented foods. And they'll go in there, the microbes from infected foods, and they'll go in and absolutely kill the bad ones. And so you will get a signal in your body to hate fermented foods. And guess where that comes from? That's not you being clever. No, that's not your superpower. That's the parasite alien inside your body trying to kill you. And
Mm.
so you want to get these good microbes in you to get rid of the pathogenic ones that are driving you, and they whisper sweet nothings to you. You think it's yourself, but they're there, and I guarantee they're gone in 2 weeks. Gone if you cut out carbohydrates completely And for God's sakes, unless you're eating a chunk of meat, you're eating pure carbs in probably some other form. Even vegetables have carbs in them. So you just eat meat, and the only other thing you can eat is fermented vegetables or fermented fruit that's been adequately fermented. We're not talking a Georgia peach that's been fermented for 4 hours. That ain't going to cut it. You got to make sure that the fruit is fermented and the vegetables are fermented to the point that they are tangy and they taste and smell like fermented foods. And when they're adequately fermented, they consume all the carbohydrates, the oxalates, the lectins, the saponins, the phthalates, all the different objectionable micronutrients, or not even nutrients, microtoxins that are present in plants, and render them into a more safe form for you to be consuming. So you want to absolutely make sure that you start in small quantities and then gradually accumulate more. And if you have to, you can dip your finger in a little bit of kimchi and put it in a glass of well water or natural spring water or ocean water. And just so a little bit of that kimchi juice went in, then drink that glass. You won't taste it, you won't smell it, but you just add it to your good infection and keep doing that. And eventually, it's going to kill off all the ones that cause cravings, and you'll be on your road to eating fermented foods without any objection. You'll start craving the fermented foods.
Awesome. And I think that's a good place to end it for the public over on YouTube, and transition into more of the questions that we have for just the community and for those that have joined the challenge. So I appreciate everyone that has watched on the streaming services, but I know we have several questions also in regards to the community. So with that being said, bye YouTube. Jump into the community. If you are part of the challenge, you did not get the email with the link, let me know. But otherwise, we appreciate y'all, and join the challenge to get the whole episode along with any future speakers we have. Awesome. All right, let's